Okay.
Yeah, so we were just talking a bunch of different things today. Since I'm sporting my new present that was given to me from my wife, my lovely wife, who gave me my Colorado Rockies sweatshirt.
It's a Hardy Astrum hoodie.
I know it is. It's a very nice sweatshirt. I'm liking it.
I didn't actually read it, but there was on Facebook somebody moved a thing of why men like hoodies, and first of all, I didn't know we did like hoodies, but apparently we do. And
I think women like hoodies too. My wife wears them.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I think that
the question is why would I read a story about?
Right. Why would I read a story about why men like hoodies?
I mean, I honestly, have any of you ever given that a thought? Because that had never crossed my mind.
No.
No.
Probably the first man that I saw wearing a hoodie was like a gym teacher, and I never thought about it again.
The first one I ever saw wearing one was Bill Belichick.
Come on.
I mean, it's always this. I always hear the internet CEO hoodie thing. Like I'm an internet CEO. You've got to wear a hoodie. Before
we get hot and heavy into rumors, I just want to touch on something that Russ and I were talking about before the webcast, because over the last couple days I've seen the two previews for the two most and this is not Star Wars, this is superheroes. The two most anticipated superhero movies coming up early next year. One is the Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, and the other one is the new Captain America movie. And Russ, I mean, okay, I'm now like sort of like I think I will go see Batman vs. Superman. I still don't buy Ben Affleck as Batman. I think Christian Bale is better.
Well, Christian Bale's the high point now.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair to Ben Affleck. I just don't.
No. But there was some crazy internet theory going or rumor going around that apparently that Ben Affleck's character was the guy who in the comic books imitated Batman, but that actually Christian Bale would be making an appearance. It was like some conspiracy theory, But Batman vs. Superman and Wonder Woman comes in, and Lex Luthor is being played by the guy who played Zuckerberg from.
Jesse Eisenberg is his name.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. But the Captain America one looks incredible.
Yeah, I mean, look, DC will never catch Marvel. Marvel's on their own plane, and the Captain America one will be just phenomenal. They've all been great. But I will tell you about the DC one, I'm at least more enthused because it's looking a little better. I thought Godot pulled off Wonder Woman really well. Because a lot of people were ripping her because they're like, oh, she's too slim and she's too short and everything else. And you know what? It worked out great. There's a little humor in that scene. The thing about it is, though, it's the initial premise is what I'm going to have to just forget about is we know Superman is like pretty much unbeatable. And so the thought that, somebody else could beat him like Batman does sort of makes it off-putting for a moment because we're like, okay, how is this even possible? But I even told my wife yesterday, I said, to see how it's possible, I will now go see the movie just because I want to see how they tell me it's possible.
Yeah, suspension of disbelief.
Right.
Bruce Wayne and Batman they're mortal, they're human. Superman's gonna kick his ass. That's just what it. I'm sorry, it's not.
Some people didn't. I liked the interaction, and I also liked the inference that Bruce Wayne said that basically Clark Kent was Superman's lackey, and I sort of liked that. That was that was great because Clark couldn't defend himself as a journalist, and that was funny.
Here's the difference between the modern era of movies making things about comic books and the era before that. The modern era has writers who get it, and who are really who are not only putting stuff out there that people like in the like the original Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman, for example.
Dreadful.
Or the original Batman even.
I never felt it was dreadful. I liked it.
I liked it too. It was totally fine.
Well, the first movie was good, but when you got into Superman 3 with Richard Pryor,
and
they never got it. But they never did as much little fan stuff as they do now. That's the thing. They really nail certain things now that are just that are really impressive. That to me is the most impressive thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage of having an old guy like me on these shows is, and it's the same thing I say about trading cards. I collected Marvel comic books live, and by that I meant, when Spider-Man 1 and Sergeant Fury 1 and X-Men 1. I was buying comics at the store and selling them back to the local supermarket or the local grocery store for two for a nickel, and then buying them for a nickel, second hand. So my generation, we understood the romance of comic books because there really wasn't anything else to do. You had 4 channels on your television and so forth. Now, saying all that, what I find interesting is the modern movies and stuff. What I like about them is they've taken it to the next level by adding a layer of humor. I love when when Downey, plays Iron Man, and there's just funny bits, and like I'm going to go out for shawarma at the end of the thing. Like nobody, I think that just sort of revolutionized the shawarma industry. By the way, like a lot of people
I heard that too.
Didn't even know what that was about. But so I'm always appreciative of sort of the modern kind of approach to that. But what I wanted to say is, I find it fascinating, like. Again, there's a romance with the first beginnings of Marvel and Stan Lee and all that. But my son, who has a modest amount of interest in this kind of thing, like to him, he has no interest in the old, Marvel books. They redid everybody. As everyone knows, they redid it and started over, and that's his era. So he doesn't really have any interest in that old style. But the difference now, and Eck just alluded to it, is there was a certain amount of naivete to the old superheroes, where now they're grittier. That's the difference. I mean, we're a grittier society now. Yep. We're used to violence. Like, you can't watch a television show, a medical show, without actually seeing the surgery being performed. Right. Like I don't know why I need that, but apparently they've decided I do. But,
That's really funny.
And Kev, the era before you, like my dad, he was collecting that stuff too, but he was collecting like Captain Marvel. Like that was the first guy, and then he collected all those originals, and then he said he used to have like these poker games with his friends, and he would lose them all that way. And so
I played poker, and Ecklenard knows this story, but I've been gambling since I've been first and second grade. I started out playing for comic books and baseball cards, and by the time I was in second grade, I was playing for money, and by the time I was in high school, I was playing in all-night poker games, on a Saturday night. So, and that's the way we did, just like your dad. I mean, it was commonplace to be gathered on someone's porch playing poker for, your comic books, your trading cards, your pennies, your nickels, whatever you had. That was just what we did. And I attribute to the fact that there just wasn't a lot to do. I mean, you played ball all day, but some days it rained.
Right. You couldn't play ball every day.
Well, the one thing I can say about what they're doing with these movies, and then we don't want to go on about this, but they're treating them seriously. I mean, the one problem I had with like the Batman series in the late '60s, the Adam West Batman, or even the Michael Keaton Batman, was that it was campy. The Tim Burton, the Joel Schumacher thing, the Superman with Christopher Reeve, it was always like the little.
It was made for kids. That's why. I mean, it was made. They're making them for adults now, I think.
Yeah, they're more realistic. They're more gritty, and like when you have like Academy Award-winning actors like Jeff Bridges was in one of the Iron Man movies, or William Hurt's in this new Captain America movie, or Robert Redford. There's some gravitas there because there were really good actors performing in these roles. So I think the movies are just so much better than the ones and the TV shows that were in the past.
Yeah, no disrespect to like George Reeve or guys that did it. Christopher Reeve was good. He wasn't this good. Right. George Reeve was sort of laughable when I would watch those those old Supermans, the first ones on TV. But I still watched them. They were fun. This brings it to a different level. You guys are right.
I do have to bring this up because it's always the best when it comes to Superman. Supergirl is now on television. My wife and I have watched it, and it's the same sort of thing that we used to say when we were kids. Like, nobody could ever figure out that Clark Kent was Superman. I mean, just by putting glasses on. And,
right.
You talk about suspending disbelief. That was the only thing that was just so hard. Even when you're 7 years old, you're going, come on.
Well, remember, Kat, they actually addressed that in Supergirl.
So
they did. They answered the question in that.
I didn't see that. What was the?
Yeah, they basically said that you can't. I forgot the way they worded it. It was a great way, and I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but it was just like when you're so familiar with something, you can't think that it's possibly that. And they basically said it like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was really good. All right, well, let's move on. This is great stuff, though. I love the fact that here we are, adults, and my son last night was having a debate with his 10-year-old friend about who would win, Superman or Batman, and here we are talking about who would win, Superman or Batman.
Those were very serious discussions.
They were 16, and they're still going on. It's awesome. I think that part of it, you can't. That's awesome. So let's get into it. Today is Thursday. I'm going to say, it's December 3rd.
I like that.
It's Rumor Day.
I'm going with it. It's Thursday. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, December 3rd, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I forgot there's nobody else on the show, and I'm gonna quote my grandmother. It'll be Thursday like all day.
I'm going to quote my mother and say it'll be Thursday all day unless it rains. Then it's a rainy day. And I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today Sports.
And I'm Eklund, and it's only Thursday if you want it to be Thursday. That's how I see it. Otherwise, it's just another trip around the sun, right? I mean, another spin around the planet. So yeah, it is what it is. We call it Thursday because someone a long time ago said this is Monday. So that's that's it.
Imagine if you didn't know what day it was. Like if you just didn't care. If it didn't matter.
That's
Well, it's Friday somewhere, so
I can imagine that very easily. Yeah, I mean the only thing that's different.
How would you schedule something then?
If I wasn't married, the only thing that changes in my world is that my children are home. That's on weekends. I'm like, oh, wait a second, the children are home. It must be a Saturday or something.
I tell you, the '98 Olympics, when I covered them in Japan, the thing I remembered most is it was hard to remember what edition you were writing for. I mean, it almost felt like you were writing for yesterday's paper. It was so confusing.
Yeah, I mean that's it
all the time. You were writing for the internet, and we had a newspaper, and it was all very confusing. So.
Oh, for sure.
It's Friday somewhere over the Central Pacific.
It is already Friday in some places. All right, so I wanted to get into some rumors today because we do get a lot of people who say we don't do enough rumors on the show, and it's not. All right, I'm not. There's not a whole lot. Let's not sell this too high, Mike. We're gonna do the best we can here. No, but a couple things I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with the harmonic situation, as they call it, the harmonic conversions. I like that term. And what's happening with this thing? Because it feels as if it's like Kevin used it yesterday. It feels as if it's dying off. Like that this is going to happen. You talk to some people who say it died off before we even knew about it. That's another thing I've heard.
Yeah.
Have you heard that too?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've talked to another GM since yesterday who said the same thing, that he had talked to Garth, and Garth Snow was speaking to the GM that, hey, it's probably more likely going to happen in the summer. So.
Right. But there is a group of people that are involved in this, and it's not atypical to see it within an organization two schools of thought. But Garth is going to be patient. He's going to be patient. That's what he wants to do. He's going to be patient. He's going to get the best. But there is also a group within that organization that is of the minds of the kind of like the old school hockey mindset. If he doesn't want to be here, we don't want him here. Get him out of here. Like, what are we waiting for? And I know that's. I'm not saying that's going to win, but
it's hard to believe. You got to know Hamonic to see that. If I'm Garth Snow and I heard just what you said, I'd really be angry because when the guy, his character, reputation, everything else. That's.
Oh yeah, no, that's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's funny. I actually heard Dan Rosen yesterday go on XM and say the same exact thing. He said what are they waiting for? This is ridiculous, And I heard, and I talked to two people yesterday who said it as well. That's why I bring it up, because it is a curious thing. Like, I agree with you. With Hamonic's situation is unique. Those who know about it, who understand what it really is, are completely understanding of it. And yet there is this whole thing. Like once someone asks for a trade, you can't just sit around and wait to make the trade to get the best thing for you. You gotta change the whole scene. I'm not saying I buy into it, but I'm saying it does exist.
Yeah, but Garth's job is to get the best return he can for him, and right now it's very tough with everything, with the season ongoing, with the lack of cap room. I mean, does he want to take a Dustin Byfuglien? I mean, that was supposedly out there before the season, who's going to walk away in free agency and they have nothing to show for it? No, he wants to get somebody he can hold on to for 4 or 5 years. It's more likely that he gets traded here in Buffalo before the draft than he gets traded before the deadline. And the thing is that some people think that the Islanders will have a gun to their head because they'll have to trade him before next season. But there'll be a lot more teams with a lot more flexibility during the offseason, and I think that will help them make that deal possible.
Yeah, I just think Garth's in a tough spot because he's trying to get maximum value. He can't get maximum value. I think they all know how dire or it is, and he basically said he could wait out the year. So basically knowing that, I think he is going to end up having to wait out the year. We probably don't like to see him having to do that because he's in a little bit of turmoil, and I think that's probably where these comments come from. But that's just the way it is right now.
Well, and I think it's a layered thing here. First of all, I think Hamonic is okay with the fact that we may have to wait until the summer to see it. Right. And I completely agree with Mike on this. Like, all the teams in the West that Hamonic would like to go to would be in a much better position to acquire him in the summer. And it's not so much. I mean, it is that he wants to get the best deal, but he needs to get a deal that helps him in his quest to win the Stanley Cup. Plus, there's another element that isn't getting enough credit. Hamonic, some people say, okay, he's not really a top-pairing defenseman. Well, whether he is or he isn't doesn't matter. He's been a very effective player. He's certainly their minutes guy, to be sure. So they have to try to get back someone to replace him. But also, this is the other issue that doesn't get enough play. He's at a really good price. So they're trading a guy who you get him in. If you have a pulse in today's game and you play defense, you're at $275 or higher million, right. And he's just over $3 million. So he's a pretty high value player. To be able to plug him into your defense at that price, that's a good get. And Garth knows that. He certainly understands that. And I think he's handled this as well as you can do. I mean, he's in a bad spot because he needs Hamonic. And Hamonic isn't Bobby Orr. I mean, we know that. But right. The Islanders need him, and they probably need him more than some of the teams they're trying to trade him to. So
right, and the thing is, Kevin, I mean, not to say that they're like a now team like the Rangers are, but they're a team that wants success in the short term. They just moved to Brooklyn. They want to fill that building in the playoffs. They want success. It's important for them not to trade Hamonic for futures, but to keep him around to go at least a couple rounds in the playoffs to make fans excited. And then, then they, on their terms, they can trade him during the summer. If they trade him for like say they trade him for Darnell Nurse, and I'm not starting a rumor, but I say they trade him for a young defenseman who's got a lot of potential and could be as good as Hamonic in a couple years, that doesn't help them in the present, and they need to win in the present.
Yeah, they need to get out of the first round of the playoffs. Their fan base is pretty much demanding it. I don't blame them. It's been forever. That's what they're really looking at.
I mean, they beat the Rangers, and we all agree the Rangers are a team with the ability to go to the Stanley Cup final. I don't think there's any question about that. So why don't the Islanders? Why can't we consider the Islanders in the final? I think they have a shot. I would not consider them among the top 3 or 4 favorites in the East, but they got a shot. I mean,
they definitely have a shot. I thought when the season began, they'd be 2 points ahead or 2 points behind the Rangers at the end of the season, and I still think that. That's
why. Now, saying all that, I echo what you're saying is there's still a chance they might trade them. I agree with you. If they find the right deal, they're going to do it.
I think at the deadline things are going to definitely heat up. Whether or not they pull it off or not is another question. But I think you will definitely hear very strong Hamonic rumors in a month and a half from now.
Because everybody's going to take their shot at it. That's why.
Yeah, there's going to be a shot, and we've talked about maybe it requires a third team to make this trade happen. Kevin and I have talked for years about 3-way trades and the content.
Yeah, hard to do, but I agree with you this time. It makes more sense because they need to get, a GM has said to me, not in the last few days, but like 2 weeks ago, the guy they're trying to get back for Hamonic is Hamonic. And
like, imagine if we said we were trading you as a host. Imagine the phone calls we'd get.
Well, yeah. I've demanded a trade. I secretly, you found out that I demanded a trade earlier in the year as well, but I can't trade myself yet. Yeah, so no. I mean, the one team that I heard, again, and I wrote about this over the past weekend, was Columbus involved in this as a three-way trade. Now, Columbus has, they're trying to get Hamonic back, like you're saying, Kevin. Columbus does not have a defenseman to give them. But they do have Ryan Johansson, and there is a temptation to Ryan Johansson. And now,
not for the Islanders.
What was that?
Not for the Islanders. He would, he's too much money going to be. So.
Right, but he's a star in this league, and and when I actually didn't hear the Islanders' money thing was an issue with in this situation. Now, of course,
it's going to be a cap issue. I mean, they're going to have to sign all these players.
Right.
And they can't take another guy who's going to get as much money as Tavares. I mean,
well, isn't he though? I mean, what is Ryan? Ryan Johansson's obviously I don't think the Blue Jackets want to go through another contract negotiation with Ryan Johansson. I really get that impression. And I think that, but yet, the Islanders look at it, and the person I talked to on the island said, we look at it like you need this, dynamic duo in the NHL these days to make things happen. Like there's this whole concept of you need the two strong players. So Tavares, Johansson, that's a dynamic duo in their minds. Ryan Johansson's aren't available ever, those kind of players. So,
well, I mean, honestly, I don't know if a lot of teams out there know what they would be getting in a Ryan Johansson. His career started out not great. He's had 2 great years, and this year, I think everybody is saying that he's taking a step back. He's not playing very well. I think he's a talent. He's a big kid. He's got but he's got another year at $4 million. And then he's going to expect to be paid, and it's not going to be another bridge deal. He's going to want the 7-8 year deal, making
only if he comes through for you. So in a way, I mean, you're good.
Well, he's going to come through. I mean, every year he's pretty much getting between 60 and 80 points.
Right.
Like if anybody's trying to marginalize what his value is as far as a hockey player, it's huge because for all the talk even about Tortorella, he's certainly accepting all the assists he's putting up.
Exactly.
Well, the other question is, what would the Islanders? I know what you're trying to say. Okay, so they trade Hamonic as part of the deal to Columbus, and they move him ahead. But what would they have to give up to get a Johansson?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Hamonic. It's going to have to be prospects as well. It's going to probably have to be another, at least one more young player. And I heard
it would probably have to be. You know what, Russ? It could be a guy like Del Cole, who's a lot of people think have taken a step back in the OHL this year. But
I don't think they would trade Del Cole. Believe it or not. I think they would trade Ryan Strome first.
I mean, I heard Strome's name mentioned. I heard Oposto's name mentioned. Now, Oposto's more of a salary type hit, right? Because you got to do a salary thing in this deal.
He's a pure rental, and he's going
to. Columbus isn't going to want the rental, that's for sure.
No. But what we don't know is, the one thing I do really, really admire is the Columbus general manager and his ability, and Kukalainen's ability to pull off interesting trades. Like the Brandon Saad trade was a very interesting deal. The Clarkson trade was a good trade, an interesting trade.
Well, it was a trade out of necessity because of insurance money more than anything.
It was, but it's not like another team did it. He did it. He pulled it off.
And the Gaborik deal with the Rangers.
I was just recording my new present that was
going on.
By the way, I don't know. Colorado Rockies.
Who's that? That's not me.
Party ass from hoodie. I know it is. It's a very nice sweatshirt.
It's Alien.
Everybody, 1 second. Hold on.
I didn't actually read it, but there was on Facebook somebody.
All right, everybody, pause. I'm muting everybody out. All right, that's coming from you, Kevin. Somehow you have another window open somewhere. Sorry. I like it when I can mute you guys though, because now I can just speak my mind and no one can interrupt me. Here we go. So. As Kevin figures out where the other window is, yeah.
You ever given that a thought? Because that had never crossed my mind.
No. The first man that I saw wearing a hoodie was like a gym teacher, and I never
Kevin's gone down like some kind of like
portal
now.
Come on!
Mute him.
I'm gonna mute. There you go. Mute yourself, Kevin, while you figure this one out. But yeah, Johansson. This is to me. I really think there's something to this. Now, whether or not it happens like this or not, and Hamonic, they're not getting a defenseman back. They are getting a difficult cap hit back for sure. But what we don't know is what happens next. We don't know where Columbus goes with that. If Columbus has something figured out with say Calgary or Winnipeg or somebody else, that's an issue.
I think Columbus still has to give him a defenseman though, so they probably give him someone like Kevin Connaughton or somebody like that. They give him somebody.
Or Ryan Murray.
No, they're not giving him Ryan Murray.
Well, okay, first of all, the cap hit on Johansson is not difficult yet. He's making $4 million.
Right.
He's making that this year and next year. It's after that. I think he's 2 years away from being a UFA. So he's good. Like I said, he's going to expect the long-term extension. He's going to expect to make over $6 million probably based on the production from those 2 years that he had and whatever he does this year and next year.
Right.
The question is whether teams think he's worth that. I mean, obviously with some of the problems that he's had this year, now he's starting to play better under Tortorella, but maybe that organization thinks that he's not going to be worth that money now, and they're going to move preemptively to trade for him or to trade him away and get a good return when his value is still high and he's still on a reasonable salary.
All right, but here's the part that I have to sort of get straight here.
Yeah.
He's not having problems. He's having the same problem Marian Gaborik did, and that is John Tortorella doesn't like him in his system. That's what it looks like to everybody. He got rid of Marian Gaborik for that reason, which I understand because Gaborik did look bad in that system. I was writing that. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But he did push him out instead of trying to work him into it, and it seems like it's happening again.
But here's the thing. The Johansson stuff goes way before Tortorella got there.
No, but now it's sort of brought itself back.
It's brought itself back, but this goes back to when 2 years ago when they sent, or 3 years ago now, when they sent Johansson to the minors to play in the Calder Cup playoffs, and Johansson didn't even show up. I mean, he played, but he got 1 point in 7 games or something like that for them, and in what they expected. And there's a definite issue. The reason that it took them so long to get Johansson signed last year was because they have serious doubts about this player.
All right, but here's the thing. All right. So with serious doubts, he's got more points than Brandon Saad. He's got more points than Boone Jenner. He's got more points than Scott Hartnell. How serious could it be? He's leaving.
He's a talent, no question. I mean, he's a talent, but this is a team that prides itself on a certain kind of work ethic, a certain sort of this is a team that is like an all for one for all type mentality.
Sure, I get that.
And if Johansson is being viewed as sort of like a little bit of a, I hate to use the word prima donna, but that sort of a concept going on, I don't think that's new to I know it's not new to Torts. This is a.
I've been hearing a lot of different stuff, and this is all like sort of like little character assassination stuff. Well, he's not tough enough.
Yeah, no, I know, and I get worried about those things.
He runs over Crosby, right? I mean, it's just there's a lot of these things coming out.
Yeah.
And Russ, and the thing is that kind of stuff could be coming from teams that are interested in him.
It could be.
And trying to drive down the value that they would have to give up to get him. I mean,
right.
He's a number one center. He's a big body. He's talented. A lot of organizations, I know. I mean, and I'm not connecting Toronto to Ryan Johansson.
No, I know.
Toronto hasn't had that big number one center since Matt Sundin, so obviously that's something that they would maybe gravitate towards. But I think there are doubts in the Columbus organization about Johansson. I don't know if it's work ethic. I don't know what it is, but there seem to be doubts. I think what they're saying is, if you have doubts about a player a year out but from him being an RFA and you're going to have to pay him big money, it might be the right thing to be proactive and look over the landscape of the NHL and see what's out there. Doesn't mean that you're going to trade him, but to put out feelers there to see what you could get back.
The other thing about this, and I did send another email out to Kevin. The other thing about this is the agent of Johansson is the same as the agent of Dubinsky.
Right.
Okay, and I remember when they were negotiating with Johansson, talking to people out there, and them saying, like Dubinsky was such a problem. It was so hard to negotiate, and we really were in the same boat again. Now you bring in Dubinsky. We can talk all the way about the Tortorella stuff in the past, but the agent Dubinsky has had discussions with Tortorella in the past about Dubinsky. Now, there's no question that that's where a lot of that stuff goes. Oftentimes, it won't be the player and the coach. It'll be the agent and the coach going back and forth on things, or the agent and so and so. So that this is carried over. There's a lot. What I'm saying is there is a lot of baggage there that's going on. And now whether or not this could all get cleared away because he's scoring, and as we've said many times before, if you're scoring, a lot of things get healed quickly.
I don't think it's fair to put it all on the agent either, because go look at how many Flyers are signed under the same agent.
Oh yeah, no, it's not all on the agent. It's just that I know specifically that there was a problem last year when they were negotiating that it was tied into the Dubinsky situation from before. So to me that. There's something else. There's a lot of levels. There's a big onion unpeel here that we don't.
Yeah, there's a big onion.
We're only seeing parts of it.
Well, and one of the things that's interesting, and I don't know if this was just a little bit of an experiment, but I know for a little bit of a window that Tortorella experimented with moving Nick Foligno to center. A big body, tough guy. He's not exactly a playmaker, and he's never been a center. He was drafted as a winger. He's played wing most of his career, but he moved him to center for about a week. And I don't know if that was like, okay, let's experiment with that, and if he can get into that role, maybe we move him there, we move Johansson out, we get something else. I mean, I don't know. That situation is very fluid, but I mean, I think that's a deal again, unless Columbus has bought into the fact that they're not going to catch up, which I don't think. They're not that far out of the race. They have 20 points. I think they're 6 points or 8 points at most out of.
They're not going to catch up without Johansson. I'll tell you that right off.
Right. If they think that they can't catch up, then I think they're more prone to a Johansson deal. If they think that they're within range, and I see no reason for them to believe that they're not, then they keep them at least until the end of the year, and then like Hamonic, maybe a deal could happen during the summer.
The funny thing about that is the one thing in the league that, like you said, everybody needs, even a team like the Rangers, who's a Stanley Cup contender, is a big center or a great center, and the Rangers don't even have that, and they're still a Stanley Cup contender. If they trade Johansson, it will take years to replace him.
Oh, yeah.
And Kate Delaney knows that.
Oh, they definitely know that. They do. And this has a lot to do with
He's not a dumb guy. Yarmo will know that.
Oh yeah, no, Yarmo knows. I mean, they would love nothing more than Johansson to have a huge year and them have to pay him a huge amount of money. Well, I mean, I've heard that, but there's been stuff there's just so much stuff that happened, and then, they've given him quite a few chances now. I think more chances than we really know. But I think at the same time, it's the NHL, and if he's putting up points, he's putting up points. If he's a big center, he's a big center, which, these are the things that we have to remember. We sit there and talk about what happened with Mike Richards, and them trying to move him around. A lot had to do with the fact that Richards couldn't play anymore, right? So, when a player can still play, things are different.
Right.
I know that we touched on Eric Stahl briefly over the last couple of days, but to me, in terms of the teams looking for the big center, I mean, I'm talking about the contending teams, and I can put three right off the top of my head: Montreal, the Rangers, and the Nashville Predators. If Carolina agrees to retain a significant amount of salary, then those are three teams that I think would be very interested in Eric Stahl because they need that big presence, that experience up the middle. And he's going to be motivated to play very well because he's going to try to hit the jackpot in free agency next July. So I mean, to me, that's the most intriguing one coming up before the deadline is going to be Eric Stahl, because I think there's no doubt right now he's going to get traded. I mean, I can't see them signing him to a contract if I floated yesterday. I think the possibility of them trading him and him re-signing in Carolina is more likely than him just signing an extension.
Here's the thing, though, and I've watched Stahl his whole career, juniors and otherwise, pre-draft, after draft. He's not the same player.
No.
And that's probably the biggest reason he hasn't been traded yet, is because he's not the same player. Because if he were the same player, A, either Carolina would fork over the money instantly, or B, they would be able to trade him instantly. But I don't think they could trade him instantly. I think there's still some maneuvering that would have to take place because he's not putting up the same amount of points. Now, you could say it's because he's on Carolina, but he used to put up those points even when Carolina was bad. But I think all those years, as a #1 center in this league, he has a lot of mileage on him. Not to say he can't play anymore, because he can, but he's not going to play at that same Eric Stahl level.
I think that's very fair. Quick other things here. Anze Kopitar, the rumors yesterday that he was getting very close to signing, apparently this isn't the case. According to Pat Brisson, who and this was in Dave Pagnotta's article, he says, unlike what has been reported, we have nothing to report. That's a very meta statement by Pat Brisson, now that I think of it.
And Pat doesn't talk a lot. So.
No, but he's now just talked and said there's nothing to say.
Right.
And to me, first of all, Kopitar's not having a Bafo offensive year. I think he's got like 13 points. The Kings are in the playoffs, and he'll thrive if they make the playoffs, which they should. He'll be a force because he's an experienced guy. He's a big body up the middle. He's a really good player. But he's not expecting Kane Taves money. But from everything that I've heard in terms of just reading other reports, he's asking for $9 million a year, over $9 million a year.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know whether Anze Kopitar is worth $9 million a year, especially with the Kings and their cap situation right now. I don't know. You sign him to that deal, and you sort of lock yourself in cap jail.
The tough thing about Kopitar is he's not really about the numbers. Kopitar, he will come up with big goals at big times. He's a clutch player.
And he can run you over, and he takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, he's such a leader on that team.
He's a good teammate, and there's so many other things to this guy.
Yeah, it's not. If you don't watch Kopitar a lot, you'll be like, what the heck, $9 million, $8 million. And I know you watch him a lot, but I'm just saying that you really.
We don't see him every day. I don't see him every day.
Yeah, but I have friends who are Kings fans, and because I've had this discussion, like, why is Kopitar asking so much? Why could and they'll tell me he's gonna get it. They basically say he's that important to the team. He is.
Yes. Well, I think it's their franchise. Even more than Quick, because look, Quick is aging a little bit. He's still great, but I think at this point, if you don't sign Kopitar, there's nobody in their system that could replace him.
No, the Stanley Cup comes down to Kopitar, Doughty, and Quick, bottom line, and both of them have come down to those three players. Jeff Carter is an
offensive franchise player.
Well, I think
Carter's getting there, but Carter's not nearly as important as Kopitar is when you talk to them.
I think this is a game of chicken here. Basically, I think the Kings are hoping that they can go face to face with him and maybe get him to take a little bit of a haircut, like maybe $500,000, because every dollar counts in this situation, because they have Toffoli who they have to sign long term down the line. They have big contracts. The Dustin Brown contract is not cost effective. He may be a good team player, but that hurts them on the cap.
Yeah, but Lombardi, we've been through that. Lombardi wants good citizens too, and he's getting
paid. And Lombardi is incredibly loyal.
Yes.
As well. As we saw with Richards, maybe to a fault with Richards, right? So he's this situation. I think the longer the Kings wait, the more expensive Kopitar is going to get. That's the problem. I really do believe that, because I believe once you get to the playoffs, if you believe the Kings are going to be a playoff force, which it's hard to sit there and say that they won't be a playoff force. Kopitar becomes way more valuable right away, and if they get to another Stanley Cup final or win another Stanley Cup, which is incredible, which is always possible with this team. Depending on what they can pick up at the deadline, they still need defense.
I was going to say that they won't win a Stanley Cup unless they bolster their defense. And with Green going out and he sounds like he's going to be out for most of the year after shoulder surgery, and them losing.
But that's actually a good thing, because Green, they just need him for the playoffs. They don't need him now.
Right. By the way, what year do you think Carter's contract runs through?
I know this.
2022.
2022, Jeff Carter. Yeah. So Kevin has been. We were worried, Kevin, that you got sucked into Googleverse again.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Yeah, good. No, I didn't. When I lost my, I decided to reboot because apparently I showed up again on the other.
Yeah, it's that parallel universe thing that happens on the internet.
So we're actually running live on that.
I saw that. Yeah, that's still going on.
I didn't understand, so I decided just to reboot. But when I rebooted, my boss called, and then another call.
No problem. Somewhere there's a me that's not sweating to death in this shirt. This is really too hot to wear for a podcast.
Did you trade Hamonic while I was gone?
No.
No, but we did figure out you were wrong. But besides that, no, just kidding.
Yeah, well,
We moved on to Kopitar.
That won't be the first time I was wrong. So.
No. We moved on to Kopitar and the Pat Brisson comments which were really great for a reporter. Dave Pinata has Pat Brisson as saying, unlike what has been reported, we have nothing to report.
I like that.
Vintage. That's classic Pat Brisson in my mind. How to say nothing by saying something. There you have it. So, and we were talking about Kopitar's value, and that's where we are right now. We're saying, I said, Kopitar, you can't look at the statistics. You can't. He's beyond statistics.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say too, I just saw. Gosh, I don't even know where I saw it, but maybe you guys saw it too. His house that he bought there.
Yeah.
And he has got this like the grandest home, and it really, when I saw that, I thought, well, this is not a guy that's going somewhere. So at some point, I would assume they'll get this done. I think I'm more concerned I'd be more concerned if I was a Lightning fan about Stamkos than I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Stamkos thing is, the Stamkos thing has really started to take on a life of its own a little bit. As much as Steve Yzerman is trying to avoid that happening,
has anyone else thought too, like the fact that Tyler Johnson has not been the same as he was last season? Like, it seemed like last year during the playoffs. Well, we love Stamkos, but if push comes to shove and we lost Stamkos. We still got the kid line, the triplets, and now all of a sudden, he hasn't been quite the same player, and the team has not been the same. And Stamkos, meanwhile, is just doing what he always does. He's a very consistent scorer. So, I
never felt that way though, Kev, because once Johnson broke his wrist, I sort of looked at him and said, all right, you know what? He's a smaller guy. He's going to have more of these injuries, and that's why I felt like Stamkos was always safe, at least from Johnson taking his job, so to speak. So I never really worried about that aspect.
Well, I guess I meant it more from the worst case scenario. I mean, I think sometimes GMs look and they go, okay, well, what happens if I lose this guy?
Right.
And at least they had still the makings of a pretty good offense, it seemed, and that still may be the case, but I'm just saying it was really the way Johnson was playing in the playoffs last year,
but
prior to the injury. So.
But this contributes significantly to Stamkos' leverage against the Lightning. It's like if Johnson is showing his warts, and I know he's had a couple like minor injuries and been in and out of the lineup a little bit. If Stamkos sticks to what is out there in terms of a demand, which is in excess of what Kane and Taves, or at least on par with what Kane and Taves were earned from the Blackhawks, I don't think Vinnick is going to be able to pay him that kind of money. They would have to clear out a lot of other salaries, and the guys like Kucherov and Palat, and Johnson's on a short-term deal, and Victor Hedman needs to be signed, and they can clear some room by walking away from Bishop or trading Bishop in the offseason and going with Vasilevsky. But if you're paying Stamkos $10.5 million, which is what that would that's the range that Kane and Taves are playing, I don't know whether they can really do that, and that's why I still think it's going to go to the 11th hour. It's going to go into the off season, and I think he's going to at least test the market. He may not go to Toronto. He may not go to another place. But I think he's at least going to go out there and see what's being offered before he comes back to Tampa and says,
God help us, Mike. God help us. If there's like a room set up somewhere in like Parsippany, New Jersey, where his agent is meeting with people.
If this were to happen, they would be staked out by his agent's office the minute it was announced. It's not going to happen. I think the same as Lundqvist. He will sign in January at some point. I think the thing is, though, he has his leverage. Look, Jonathan Drouin's only got 2 goals. He's had trouble scoring. The whole team's had trouble scoring. Actually, some of their best prospects are defensemen. So if they're going to save money, they could save it on the blue line because D'Angelo can come up maybe even next year. Braden Coburn will be out. That's a big savings. They'll get it done. And if it means losing one guy in the offseason, then they'll lose one guy. But you can't lose Steve Stamkos. He's just too important for that team. I don't think they'd recover. I know they're good. They're not that good.
And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I agree with Russ. If you ask me what I really think is going to happen, I think that he is going to be re-signed, and I don't think it's quite as dire financially. To me, there's a very simple solution for this, and that is you trade Valtteri Filppula. That to me, that solves all of their problems. Stamkos and Tyler Johnson as your top two centers works out nicely, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Are they that? Do they really lose much if they trade Filppula? I mean, Filppula is a very solid, dependable player, but he's not a difference maker for a team. And he's $5 million. So taking him off the roster gives you the ability to take Stamkos to, what I've been saying now, $9.1 million, 91, like Crosby. And I think that, we're going to be somewhere in that range for him. And the only point I wanted to make about that earlier, what I was trying to say, because I'm sure some of the viewers are going to just say, well, just Tyler Johnson is still a good player and all that kind of stuff. The only point I'm making is everyone kind of knows long term that you want to keep Stamkos, but what changes is, and I think it was Mike that used the word, the climate changes. Like it impacts it when these kind of little things happen because you start to think, okay, well, worst case scenarios, so forth, and now the team is not scoring goals, but Stamkos still is. So all of that does play a role in the psychology of negotiations, even though the bottom line is the Lightning know that they want to keep Stamkos if they can work it out, and Stamkos wants to stay there. I think that's the bottom line.
And I'll give you one more for today's athletes for the psychology, and I've seen it happen for Stanton in baseball, for Price in baseball, and it definitely happens in hockey. They'll probably say to Stamkos, look, that first year of your deal, you'll be the highest paid player in the sport. They'll be able to come out and announce it. It'll be a big deal, and then his salary will go down like every year since, from that point, and that's how they'll work it out. And then he'll be happy. His agent will be happy.
Yeah.
Everybody will be happy.
I think that's true too. And I forgot to tell you guys last week. I was in Longboat Key and walking around.
We didn't forget. We saw.
Well, no, I know, but as I was walking around by myself, just I wandered off.
My button buffalo, thanks.
For a few moments to ponder my existence, which is what happens when you spend a week with your in-laws. So I'm walking along.
A week's a long time.
I'm walking alone, and I walk past this construction site by this house that's on the water, and it's enormous. And I'd start talking to one of the guys, and like, wow, it's a huge compound you're building. Because I'd walked this route before, and there were always two houses. Now there's only one big one. Someone had bought both lots and made one big one. And I was like, yeah, this is Jeff Vinnick's house that we're building. So I literally walked right past it, and he's building this beautiful mansion on the water. And he bought two lots, probably, I don't know, easily $5 million a piece for these lots, right on the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm just, that's where he bought this place.
He's building it with the money that he's gonna save on the Stamkos extension.
Right. I mean, so Vinnick's been a great owner. He's, I liked Arn Kulis as an owner. I always thought he was a good owner. People ripped on him all the time. I think that was completely unfair. And I think that Lightning have been on the right path, and I think they've been on the right path for a while. And Stamkos is part of that. I think what you're trying to say, and I'm trying to come up with an allegory in my head as you were talking, because I know exactly what you're saying. Like, it's like, Stamkos is like this beautiful 70-inch color TV that you have, and then Johnson's like this beautiful 50-inch color TV. And if the 50-inch TV, if the 50-inch TV is really okay, and you might not need the 70-inch one, but at the end of the day, you want to keep the 70-inch one over the 50.
At the end of the day, you want them both. You want the 70.
You want them both, right?
Yeah, and the 50 you want in your family room, and the 70 you want.
I think last year when Johnson was playing really well and Stamkos, his points were down and he was sort of taking a different role for the Lightning, there was thought of like, is this 70-inch TV a luxury item for us? I mean, do we really need the luxury item? Because we have other good televisions here, but not to take this metaphor too far.
Well, you already have, because I just bought a 40-inch.
Right.
Smaller living room, and now I feel like the Hurricanes. I feel terrible.
Okay, well there you go. So you got to, and it's probably, is it a 4K TV? I mean, come on.
No, I didn't go 4K. My next one, the problem with 4K, and I'll let everybody know now, other than Netflix, nobody broadcasts in 4K. That's the problem.
No, that is true, but that'll change in the next few years.
When it changes, I'll be on board.
When sports is in 4K, that's when 4K will take off. That was the same thing with HDTV. HDTVs were like this for a couple years.
Here's the thing about that though, all the networks claim they've never been paid back for the HD upgrade, and that's a big deal.
Oh, I feel so terrible for them.
I know, but just getting them to move on 4K is gonna be a lot.
They never paid us back for the TVs that don't work anymore.
I'm just telling you, these are things that I get told.
No, believe me, I follow this stuff really closely. I know. I've read the same thing. You're absolutely right. Last thing I wanted to touch base on because we are out of time is the Flyers situation now with Mark Streit apparently coming back shortly. Not really soon, but in early January, I guess is the term.
Yeah.
Now, remember the beginning of the year, we said the one thing the Flyers needed this year was for somebody to get hurt and go on long-term injury reserve. That's what Streit's been for them, and that's the Flyers' rebirth here. Has had a lot to do with that because this has enabled them to have some room to bring up Gastivier and who's had a great impact, and bring up Nick Cousins now and some other players that are having a nice impact on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But when Streit returns, all that goes out the window. They're writing up so.
Well, maybe they can trade for Chris Pronger.
Right. Yes. Sure. Why not? Something's gone wrong. Okay. So what's going to have to happen is. And now, I'm hearing two different chains of thought with this. They're definitely starting to address it, and they're starting to say, okay, well, they have some players they can send down, but they don't have like Manning's another defenseman they could send down, but he doesn't make enough. Gastivier makes more, so there's still about $400,000 difference there. So then there's the thought is, okay, we're playing very well without Mark Streit. Maybe Mark Streit's got some value. He's only got 1 year of $5 million on his contract after this. Maybe they move Mark Streit out, or if not. Then I think you're definitely looking at, Braden Shen being in trouble, or somebody like this something's going to give when Mark Streit returns.
Well, I think the easy one is the one you said, but I wouldn't like it to happen. It's probably easiest to move Medvedev at this point.
Or I mean.
But he's not a lot of money, is he? I mean, he's.
Well, he's. I want to say he's $1.5 million or $2 million.
That might not be enough, because to do what they want to do. Like if they want to keep up Gastivier and Streit, which is what they want to do.
He's getting 3. Okay, so yeah.
Oh, so he's more than I know. It's $3 million. Okay, yeah. Like I've said before, I know Ovechkin has pushed hard for the Caps to get in on Medvedev before the whole season started. So,
but January's a while from now. We're all assuming that Shane Gostisbehere is going to continue on this zenith. We don't know that.
Yeah, but the idea here is. What we're seeing is what we talked about before is Hackstall's system, requires very specific kinds of players.
It does.
And he has no way of getting those kind of players to his team because of the salary cap. And why a lot of the Flyers' struggles have to do with the fact that this is a Berube/Laviolette system of players playing Hackstall's system, and it's not working, right?
And if we're talking mid-January, around the All-Star break, I mean the Flyers can buy a couple weeks by sending Streit down on a conditioning stint to the AHL, to make sure he's 100% before they bring him back. And then you're in the territory where rentals start to get traded, and you have Luke Schenn making over $3 million, and I don't know whether the Flyers are going to be interested in re-signing him long-term. He makes, I think,
they have no interest.
So I mean, you might be able to peddle off Luke Schenn and clear some of that salary and create your room that way.
Well, Kevin, what do you think value-wise? Luke Schenn, Mark Streit, is there a market for these?
Luke Schenn, I think you'd have a difficult time getting anything for him. It's a Streit for sure. I mean, he still can move the puck. He can still handle the puck.
He's a power play specialist. So.
Yeah, but the biggest problem obviously is his salary.
Only one more year at 5.25, which is not terrible for your power play defenseman.
No, but it's still hard to fit in, especially
because every team already has that player, so you're doubling up on something here.
But if the Flyers are, I mean, they've seemed really hesitant to ever retain salary on any deal. I mean, if they wouldn't do that for Streit, then I think it's going to be tough for any team to fit a $5.25 million defenseman under their cap. Especially,
I think they might do it for Streit. I mean, I don't think they've been super hesitant about retaining salary, like you've said. I mean, I think that there's been, and the reason I bring this up now, and it's easy to sit there and say, okay, why aren't we talking about this in January, is Hextall hates being in positions of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
This is his main thing.
He is like he doesn't. There's nothing he could do from a position of strength.
And he hates this. So to him right now, to fix this before the problem happens is definitely in his mindset. You know, he's of the mind he doesn't care if it hurts the team short term because he doesn't see. I don't think they see this team as a playoff team, but they do. And even though despite the way they're playing right now, but I can't see him waiting until Strite comes back to make this move. Now you can't really move Strite while he's hurt, of course.
Right.
So there is that caveat. So that's why I kind of tend to think because the defensemen that they have coming up are so young that they're going to bring Mark Strite back, and that it's going to be a forward that's going to be sacrificed.
No, I have to agree because thinking about it, who's running your power play? You're not going to let Delzato run it. You're still not going to let Gostisbehere run it, and you're not going to let Medvedev run it. They're still going to have Strite running it.
Right. And finally, I wanted to bring up one last thing. Sorry, and I'm sorry for you guys, because this is something that I talked to somebody about today, and then I talked to somebody about yesterday as well. And I noticed this from watching Dylan Larkin this year, from watching Gostisbehere, from watching Connor McDavid. Young players stick handle incredibly fast. I mean, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but the one thing I've noticed with players coming up right now, is the speed that they stick handle is totally different than the speed that NHL players are stick handling, like around them. And it's almost like Gostisbehere. Quite often you would see him, and you've seen this with Larkin too. They're carrying the puck up the ice, and the puck's going back and forth. They're back and forth, left, right. You know, as they dribble or stick handle, or whatever you want to call it. Twice as many taps back and forth as a normal player would have between the blue lines.
I watched the Winnipeg-Toronto yesterday, and Nick Ehlers' hands are magical. I mean, lightning quick.
And Russ, and I wanted to ask you, have you noticed this? I mean, this is something that is it's totally noticeable. And you watch with Gostisbehere more than once. He gets handed the puck, dropped off behind the net by the goalie. He skates it out, and I want to say to him, I'm like, slow down, man, you're going to lose the puck. Don't go so fast. There's no way you should be. You don't have to. There's nobody there. You don't have to do this.
Well, you can't teach youth, and that's why a lot of these players are playing now. Is because once you're in the league, 5 years, 10 years, you're getting slashed a lot. You get a lot of things happen to you. All of a sudden, that little element goes away. That extra little spark, that extra little spring in your step, that extra little zing in your shot. Some of those things do start to fade. You make up for it with, you're smarter, a better stick, a little better knowledge of the game, knowing where to go. But this is just raw talent. And when you see Austin Matthews, you're going to be like even more with your tongue out.
That's why I'm wondering, is this a trend? Is this something that actually is happening, that players are more highly skilled than they go?
Yeah, it's been happening probably for like 4 or 5 years.
I think it's – go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I think it is a trend. I just did a piece on Colton Parayko, for example, and I thought it was a great quote by Doug Armstrong, because I was just asking, because it feels like, and a lot of people have mentioned, myself included, that it feels like GMs are more open to the idea of using younger players because the game's so fast. And he said, what Armstrong said is, it's not that the GMs have changed their thinking, it's that the younger players are so much better. Yeah. Like, we haven't changed at all. But
the younger players have changed the GM's thinking because they're so good.
Right. Yeah, it's not. We haven't. Yeah, he said I haven't changed at all. I mean, basically, a GM will take the best players. But now the younger players are the best players. And he brought up that now 12 and 13-year-old players have fitness coaches. They have stick handling coaches.
Yeah. Right.
And they have a lot of different one-on-one training, and you see the results of that. Not everybody loves that idea, by the way, but I think you do see it with some of the younger players who show up at the NHL, and they're very polished stick handlers, and their nutrition is where it should be, and their level.
Because we talked about this a lot. We've talked about before about how the Gretzky era was an interesting era because there were still players around who couldn't go as fast, right? And Gretzky.
Not everybody did everything at top speed. Then that's what I was going to say.
Right. Gretzky, fed on those type of players, and as did Mario, and they fed on these players who were not, and and now we say everybody's basically the same, but and skate wise they are closer.
No,
but stick-wise, I am not convinced that we're not going to see the same sort of thing. That because the stick speed, just the speed of sticks and moving, and the ability to do what they do. I'm not convinced that we're not going to see a bit of a gap again between players who can stick handle and can shoot. We're not just talking about quick releases. We're talking about like crazy quick releases. I mean, we've always had quick releases, but this stuff is nuts.
I think
that's why you have 4 good lines. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
No, I think that, I mean, I know one of the things that has been talked about with Mitch Marner, the Leafs' first-round pick, is his ability to stick handle at top speed and his ability to shoot at top speed. And I mean, that's something. I mean, a guy like Tarasenko, I think, is an example of that. But back to your point, Ek, I mean, I have a member of my family who's 7 years old, who's an aspiring hockey player. He's got his skating coach, and he's 7 years old.
Right.
So, I mean, these kids come in at 17, 18, or 18, 19 years old, ready for the NHL. And there's also the financial benefit here for the teams, where these players are on entry-level deals at $925,000 if they're a first-round pick, or less if they're a deeper pick in the draft. So, I mean, it's beneficial for these teams.
Yeah, and you're right. And the other thing the scout said to me, which you're seeing, and you'll see with your cousin as well, and this we'll go after this, is the fact that that players younger are turning into one sport players. Where when we were we would play multiple sports until we were 12, 13, 14 years old. Now it's like once you're 11, if you're really good at some sport, you're going to be going to that sport 12 months a year versus just playing that sport in the winter or spring or summer.
Well, there are camps for everything. There are checking camps now. There are skating camps. There are stick handling. I mean, they got everything, and it's really what it all boils down to is, and it's mostly a soccer term, but it applies to hockey, is speed of play. Yeah. Everyone's increased the speed of play, like just what you were saying, Tarasenko and the Maple Leafs guy. Everybody can do things. I mean, there were a lot of guys who could do things in the '80s, but they didn't do them all the time. Now everybody does it all the time because the game is just played at a high level, and you handle at a high level. You shoot off the rush at a high rate of speed as well.
But it's usually said that. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, growing up, they were really fast guys. There were guys that could shoot the puck hard. There were guys that were really strong. There were very few of them that did all of those things, like a Mark Messier. Now there's a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing too. And I just did a piece on Klingberg, and Craig Button made this observation, and the pro scout had just said the same thing to me. Guys now can shoot the puck with their head up. So when they're following through, they can change in mid swing whether or not it's going to be a pass or a shot. And that's sort of it's not a new development. There were guys who could do it, but now more guys can do that. So
yeah, and it's fascinating to me because we've always talked about young players' biggest adjustment to the NHL is the speed of the game, right? But what's fascinating is that the young players are driving the speed of the game a little bit more now. I heard Augustavir. I heard a little bit about this with Dylan Larkin, that at the AHL level they were too fast to a degree. The players had a tough time playing with them because they couldn't
play with them.
Right.
Yeah.
The older people down there. So
one thing I've noticed about Dylan Larkin, and this is for all the people who get a chance to watch him play. Dylan Larkin has never met a shot that he didn't like.
Right.
He puts everything on net.
Yeah.
He's already had 2 goals on short side, bounce off the backside of a goalie. And he just knows because, he's got that quick release that they're not expecting it. So, he scored on long shots. He scored on things. He puts the puck on net.
I was so mad last year when the U.S. team didn't play him more in that World Juniors tournament. I was
Me too. The other thing is, goalies have also stayed in that path of changing in the sense that now with the head trajectory and seeing through traffic and tracking the puck, that's light years ahead of what they used to do in the 80s. Light years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I played this, and just this it was funny. I played open hockey not too long ago, and I was doing what I usually did in goal, which is, as a goalie, what I was taught, if you were playing and there was a power play going on and the puck was moving back to the point and there was a screen in front of you, you were taught to yell screen. Like I was taught yell screen, and you could get down low and try to look underneath the traffic, right? And that's what you did as a goalie. And when I did that, some of the younger players they turned around like they were just what's going on? And I'm like, I was taught to yell screen. It's like, no, we don't do that anymore. It's like, no, now you're screened. You accept the fact you're screened. You just put yourself in the spot you are and let it hit you, and that's that. Yeah, but it was really funny because it's so ingrained in me.
The head trajectory thing is huge. That's what's helped Devin Dubnyk and a lot of other goalies.
Yeah.
Because there's so much traffic now, right? There's so much traffic in front of the net.
It really is. It really is. Oh, it's a great show, guys. Thanks so much. I only have one card for us today. An old guy who was really slow, but Tim Kerr. I just found that card. I'm like, that's a pretty.
That's a great one.
And a big old slow guy who was played most of his career with one shoulder, but just couldn't
Yeah,
help
and a
but
bad
score.
back. Yep.
If he was healthy, he would have put up. He would have. Who knows how many?
He was unstoppable in the crease when he was good. He was unstoppable in the crease, and the only thing that could stop him was getting traded to the Rangers. Then that stopped him.
I'll always remember Pelle Eklund's 4 assists game again with Tim Kerr and against the Rangers in the playoffs. That's one of the things I will always remember. It's a great one. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Tomorrow will be Friday. I promise you that. Talk to you soon.
We'll not be here tomorrow. I got my podcast right at the same time. So
Okay.